Welcome to a brand new episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
First off, apologies for not having an episode last month in February. I got the flu. I had scheduling things, and sometimes the stars don't align. We try and put something out every month, but sometimes it just doesn't happen for one reason or another. So apologies, but we're back here to talk about the last 2 months. Musum, why don't you tell me what you've been playing these past 2 months?
Okay, I have played a bunch of miscellaneous stuff,
Oh, okay.
and I'm only going to talk about the stuff I remember well enough to talk about.
Fair enough.
Um, so, just in an effort to only play the most new and exciting games,
Mm.
I have been playing off and on 1992's The Summoning.
Okay.
I maybe I should have sent you a list before this podcast,
No, no,
Boston. I'm
you're okay.
sorry. So this is an SSI game.
Hmm.
Um, this is a game that I only know existed because another neighborhood kid named Ryan, who that dude introduced me to a lot of cool games.
Oh, nice.
But he introduced me to this thing, and it has like this really epic intro where they're training you because they know they have to send you against this I don't remember what it's called, the Dark Lord thing or whatever. And I mean, it's like a 5 or 10 minute intro, and it will probably play in this video as
That's what I
we're
was just
going.
thinking, yeah. Also, that's pretty
Um,
impressive for 92, where a lot of
yes,
games in 92 were basically like, here's kind of a big screen of text and
yeah.
hopefully some music if you can get your sound card to work correctly, but that's about it.
So this is definitely a game you have to save scum, but this game is honestly it's really freaking cool. It's a
Hmm.
little like in some areas it's heavy. So like the magic system, you have to you find scrolls, or you could just natively have it memorized from your last playthrough, and you get these well, no, okay, no, you got to find the scroll to get the hand sign. So you have different hand signs, which I'm making weird things that they do. Like it's all I'm trying not to do profanity things with my hands. Um, but you get a basically a list of hand signs, and then you do the sequence of the spell, and then it creates one of that spell instance in your stock to use.
Oh, okay.
Um, and you can have 4 different spell types, and each spell type, however many you have, is dependent on your level in that school of magic. Um, and it's neat, but it gets like once you get up to like a dozen different hand signs, and you're trying to remember what the heck hand sign it is for, whatever spell you're looking for at the time, it gets a little overbearing.
Right.
But it, for the most part, a lot of the way this game works is it's kind of a Elder Scrolls type method where the more you do things, the more it levels up.
Mm.
Um, but it's also a destructible weapon game, which means you really got to be a little good at everything.
Oh, okay.
Um, the gameplay is you're an isometric overhead. Um, you have a menu that's like a bottom bar that you click and drag up, and it brings up all your inventory and equipment and things you can do. You can have 2 things in your hands. A lot of the time I go weapon and a healing item or the map.
Mm.
You do get a magic map, thankfully, that maps the levels for you, because I think there's something like 40 or 50 levels in this thing.
Oh, wow.
Um, I've never beaten it. I've been told, like, one of the starter dungeons, you have to go through an area that has like 20 spiders in it. Uh, and my friend who introduced me to this swears that is the hardest part in the game.
It sounds like it.
And it might be. Like, for the most part, you're just wandering around the level trying to solve the puzzles, meeting various NPCs there are a lot of NPCs, man. If this was the 90s, I'd have a notebook out, but I'm way too
Right.
lazy for that now. Uh, but it's a neat game, dungeon crawler thing to wander around and solve little puzzles, and this NPC is depressed because he doesn't have it, or his sword broke. So then you got to go find the smithy and find a way to reforge a sword. And I don't know what happens when you reforge a sword because I haven't far yet. But um, it's a cool game. It's
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know. I figure this will just be something I play off and on for a while. It unfortunately I don't think it's so great with a guide because it has, you know, like 20 or 30 hand signals for the freaking magic and
Mm.
um like the weapon stuff is easy enough to manage, right? You have a skill for a sword and a spear and I think a shield skill or something like that and um but like remembering all the different quests you've unlocked without a quest journal and things like that is a little overbearing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I the other hard part about this for me is I was in like eighth or ninth grade when I played this, so this is definitely a nostalgia thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's hard for me to know if another human being could actually play
Right.
this ancient thing and enjoy it.
Right.
But I think it's neat. I think it is has a ridiculous amount of depth in it. The combat's a little, how do I put this? Like, so a lot of the game is played with your mouse, right? Like the keyboard, like you have some arrows on there, but the way the isometric function kind of works, it's a little hard to aim your distance spells, and everything's kind of coming at you from an angle, so it's a little odd. But
Mm.
uh, anyway, all that said, I'm pretty sure this game costs a whopping $3.99 on GOG, so it's
Right.
not like you're taking a huge gamble. You know, it goes on sale for $2 all the time, and it's probably I think this is one of the ones that was on Steam.
Mm.
But um, let me think. Check the notes. Anything else I want to talk about? Right, you can find books to go up levels. Um, you can also throw your weapons. uh, but I don't know, just a neat little relic from the past.
Yeah.
I also downloaded and started playing Deep Rock Galactic Survivor.
Yeah.
Um, sure if I've talked about this on here or not.
I don't. I think we talked about it before when I was playing it, but I'm not sure if we've talked about it when you were playing it.
Okay. I'm really enjoying this game. It's a
Yeah.
nice. It's kind of interesting in that it is a Vampire Survivors top type game, but in another way it isn't. Like
Right.
it's way more mission focused. It took me when you were describing it, I just could not comprehend like like the flow of things.
Yep.
Like, what do you mean there's no real time? Oh, the time limit is the boss.
Yeah, like
Once
the
the
time
boss
limit is
dies,
like
you know?
the progress bar. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
on-screen thing being like, "Well, you got 20 minutes left."
yeah. I really like digging through stuff.
Yep.
It's not a game that I just play mission after mission of, which I think I enjoy. Like I mostly go in and I'll play one or two missions, maybe three, and then I put it down for the night type
Oh,
of
sure.
thing. Whereas like Vampire Survivors, I've stayed up until dawn before. Like,
Right.
but um, I I'm not sure I completely comprehend the inventory stuff yet, in that I think all the item like are the equipment's randomized, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not
as far as I know, yeah.
okay.
I
I've
feel
been
like
afraid to sell things.
yeah, I feel like my maybe one criticism of this game is I think when you're first starting out, the gear isn't really that interesting or useful. I feel like it doesn't really get super interesting until you get to the point where you're getting stuff that's of a higher rarity, and then you can see, oh, well, I can pick this one and it has two bonuses that are like fairly significant, and then you get like another piece of gear that complements that, and you're like, oh, now I can start building like synergies, and I can start making builds out of a specific character type or class or whatever you want to call it. But before then, it's always sort of like you reload 1% faster, and it's like, okay, cool. Like I don't, is that good, or what? But like once you start getting past the like kind of like gray and green tier, I feel like then you start seeing interesting stuff of like, oh, that changes how I play this completely. Okay, cool. Or like that makes this strong thing even stronger. So like what I would recommend is I didn't realize this until really late is that once you start as you start doing more missions and you start doing like deeper depths um and you start increasing your gear level, I would recommend selling all of your really low level gear, like the stuff that's way under your current gear level, because that selling that stuff will give you materials. It'll give you gold, but it'll also give you the materials you use to upgrade the meta progression stuff. Those like clocks that you're filling. It'll give you a bunch of those materials just by selling your old gear, which I didn't realize for a long time. And I'm like, oh, I could have been upgrading all of this stuff, like my health and my XP gain and my movement speed and all that stuff way earlier with kind of all of these free materials I didn't realize I was sitting on.
Well, I need to go clean out my inventory then.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what's after green. I think purple.
It's like I can't remember if it's a blue or purple, but I think it mostly follows the same kind of usual progression.
Yeah,
and then
I
the
bet
highest end
blue.
stuff is red.
I definitely don't have any reds.
Yeah.
But I only have enough of whatever the next color is, we'll say blue, to like fully equip a character, I think.
Oh, sure.
So it's but man, I think I have a ton of greens I could get rid of.
And probably like a ton of like white or gray stuff too that you can.
Yeah, I think I did sell the white stuff.
Okay.
But I don't. It's been a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get back to that one. Yeah, I'm still really enjoying this. I'm still kind of trying to pick up the nuance of the characters. I do really like the engineer class, and hopefully it's not just because that's my day job.
It's been a little bit of time since I played. That's the one with the turrets, right?
Yes.
I like that one a lot too. The turrets
Yeah,
are really strong. Well, not always really strong, but I feel like they're satisfying.
Yeah. I like that. You eventually get an upgrade where they will move.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And that's when to me, that really unlocks for me. Like, I think that's the only weapon mastery I did was that initial turret they give you.
Oh,
the
sure.
first level of that. Those weapon masters are hard.
They really are. Yeah.
I can't remember. I think one of them I unlocked was for I don't know, one of the shotgun type weapons. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to give this a try. That sounds insane.
Yeah, like that's just some of those. You just look at them on paper. There's like that one, like lightning pistol or like the lightning SMG, and I'm like, I don't even want to try that. Like that gun sucks.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me that's the only one I'm getting. Like there is one item you unlock later in the game. It's called like a weapon case or something. And whenever you pick it up, instead of you having 4 weapons, you can have a 5th one. It's really, really strong. But you can use that in the weapon masteries too if you're lucky enough to run into it, if you like roll the dice well enough. So some of those really tough ones, if you're lucky enough, you can get a second weapon. But even with that on some of those, I'm not sure how much easier that would be.
Gotcha. Man, I need to get back to this. It's been a week or two, and I got distracted with another game.
Have you tried
just talking about it?
Yeah, like you get the itch. Have you tried
Yeah,
the escort missions yet? Have you unlocked those?
Yes. Those are perfect when I don't have a lot of time. I just have like 20 minutes or something. I like those an awful lot.
Yeah.
Making the I know we talked about it on here before, but just for the audience, the escort missions, you get a big drill that you're finding oil for to escort to a drilling point, but the drill is indestructible.
Yeah.
So your only real goal is to keep the thing moving before the horde levels up to where you can't tolerate it anymore. Which, in my opinion, is how all escort missions should be done.
Right.
Always make your escort indestructible.
Yeah, like I don't want to babysit
something else
it
for you to do.
Yeah.
You're just gonna make me mad at your programming.
Yeah. Yeah, those missions are some of It's funny because like looking at on paper, you're like, I don't want to escort something, man. Especially not in one of these games. Like that sounds like the worst. But that's
Yeah.
some of my favorite stuff in the game. Is they're super fast runs. They're super fun, and they're low on like BS because, like you said, it's indestructible and it's just you're cooking through a lot of that stuff, and it's really good.
Yeah. Um, man, I don't know that I have a ton more to say about this one.
If you
So let's.
like Survivor likes these bullet heaven games, I think even if you're like me and you know nothing about Deep Rock Galactic, this is a must play for sure. I think
Yeah.
it's one of the best.
I, I mean, I'm trying to think of how to say this sentence in a way that's not demeaning to it. This is, in a way, like one of those games, but with a more traditional yet innovative progression to the gameplay
Yeah.
um, that I really appreciate and like. Like, I feel like I'm. Well, what I want to say is I feel like I'm playing more of a real game, but all those games are real. I adore, I mean, you've heard us, hopefully you've heard us talk about those for months. And if
Right.
you haven't, go listen to old episodes. And,
Yep.
aside from Vampire Survivors, go, hear about Halls of Torment. And I think you guys did that on, I
Over
can't
on We
remember what
Rogue Like
anything's
It.
called.
Yeah.
Yes, we rogue like it.
Yep.
Um,
Well, I
I
get
just,
what you're
there's a,
saying though, because I feel like sometimes bullet heaven games can feel there's a community in Japan that started insultingly calling them lawnmower games, where it's just kind of like you're not doing anything. You're just like it's like one step above a screensaver, and I think a lot of the games we've played haven't been like that. Like Halls of Torment and Vampire Survivors definitely isn't like that. But I get what you're saying of like this feels like there's a little bit more meat on the
yeah,
bone for this one.
it's, maybe the way to put it is it's more mission oriented
Yeah,
than the others. Whereas the others, you usually get like a list of things to do in a non-mission related screen.
right. Or like just
And
survive.
yeah, and it very much is kind of a Zen thing, but you always have to use your brain in these games or you're gonna
Hmm.
die. Like, and the first time you play Vampire Survivors, you're going to die a lot. It takes a while to like
Yeah.
level up your guy enough to be decent at it. And I know that because I was playing the phone Android version a few months ago.
Hmm.
Um,
But I think
just
what's interesting about DRG Survivor compared to some of those games is I feel like very quickly in Vampire Survivors especially, you get incredibly overpowered.
yeah,
And I feel like in DRG Survivor, it feels like it's always more of a defensive game. Like you're always a little bit on the back foot. You're never like, oh, I'm going to rush into a group of bugs and I'm just untouchable. Like you're kind of
yeah,
always like pulling back and running away a little bit. Not in a frustrating way, but like even when you're investing in the meta progression, even when you're getting more powerful and you're doing the weapon masteries and the character and the biome masteries and all that stuff to give you the leg up, typically when you do that, the next step is going to the next difficulty. And at that point, you're like, oh, well, now I'm kind of back on even footing, or I'm a little bit weaker than the enemy, and I gotta build it back up. So it kind of never gets to that point in Vampire Survivors. Where you're like, well, I'm 10 minutes in, I just evolved my first thing. Oh, 20 minutes left of standing here, which
yeah,
is still great. I love Vampire Survivors, but like you said, it feels like a much different game.
yeah. It's anyway. Kudos to these guys for being so inventive with
Yep.
it. I'll definitely be playing it. I mean, this is my new one of those for
Right.
this year, I think.
Yep.
Until another one distracts me. I have a friend who's been trying to get me to play Mega Bonk, and I'm sure I
Oh.
will buy that off at some point, but I don't know.
Yeah, people really seem to like Megabonk. We haven't made it to that on We Rogue Like It yet, but that was like a big hit of late last year, early this year.
Hmm. Well, Moving on. I played, so I'm only going to talk about this next one a few minutes. It is Rise of the Dragon from 1990 something. I think it's late 90s. So this is a game I've been, gosh,
Oh, man,
we talk about a
dynamics.
lot of games on Game Club, and I've grown paranoid about my old suggestions because a lot of them have not panned out, such as, say, the 2006 Bard's Tale. Um,
Well, like we were talking
and
about earlier with like, looking at them through rose-colored glasses, you're sort of like, well, of course this game was really great. And you
yeah,
start playing it in 2025, 2026, and you're like, well, maybe it has aged a little
yeah.
bit.
This is like a point-and-click adventure game from back then that has a cyberpunk noir bit to it.
Oh, okay.
You are, you're a private detective who lives in like this one-room apartment. There's a timer going throughout the game that affects things.
Oh, okay.
The artwork in it is really good, but it lets you miss things, and it's really easy to miss things, and it's
Mm.
really easy for things to go wrong. And I think there are multiple endings, but I've not booted it back up and tried again.
Mm.
So like when you start out, a lot of it, your first like probably 20 minutes are going to be like, what in the world are the controls for this thing? Like, just look it up online because you do have a mouse, but it's very confusing because like the objects you can interact with, you don't realize you can interact with. There's, I think there's an option you can turn on where it will put on like an arrow or dot on things,
Mm.
or at least like in your apartment alone, like it's literally a single room apartment with a bathroom that I guess has its own room, but there are views you can get to in your apartment that you have to know to click on the right area to see them.
Oh, sure. Okay. That era
So
of like point-and-click adventure games.
yes, yeah,
Gotcha.
your bathroom has a medicine cabinet you can open. Or actually, I take that back. Your medicine cabinet's in the apartment now that I'm
Mm.
looking at the video playing. Uh,
Also, the thing that strikes me about this, looking at this, is how like comic influenced it is. Not just
oh
the
yeah,
intro, but kind of how the game itself is stylized, and like how the kind of thought bubble is stylized like a comic thought bubble. That's really interesting.
yeah. It's a little adult, although I don't think it has any curse words or nudity, but there's definitely a lot of um, like sex insinuation type things
Sure.
and kink things in it. But like in the video, like there was a code on there, like you have to find the guy's clothes and get him dressed, and like there's a gun under his pillow, which you can completely miss. But looking at the FAQ, evidently that gun is pointless, and you get a much better gun. And this one will only get in the way. And the way it gets in the way, for instance, is one of the first places you go as a club, and they want you to check in your gun at the club, and you just drag your gun to the window and don't think anything of it and move out. And then when you leave, you find out that evidently you were supposed to grab a ticket, and they won't give you your gun without the ticket. So
Oh man,
like that was
90s
the first
90s point
thing
and
that,
click games.
yes, that was the first thing that was like, I'm going to take a break from this game today.
Yep.
That said, it's only supposed to be like 4 or 5 hours long.
That's not too bad.
But it's a cool game. It's there's a lot of places to wander around, and I think if you like kind of the aesthetic and vibe of Cyberpunk 2077, but you want to play a 90s point and click adventure version
Right.
of that. Granted this is the 90s, so there's the other fear is a lot of Cyberpunk back then was very uh I don't there's a real word for it, but afraid of Japanese businessmen, we'll
Oh,
say.
uh-huh. There was
And
a layer of like xenophobia, and also
yeah,
like thinly veiled racism of like, boy, isn't Japan cool? And there's always this sort of like underpining of like, yeah, but there like neon lights are very cool. Japan is cool. And it's like, yeah, but what about the rest of it? And they're like, I don't care. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
well, okay, cool.
Well, this will It probably has some of that. I've not necessarily run into it, but I'm pretty sure it does. I think there's one of the Triad gangs or something somewhere
Right.
in here. And I forgot it does have the FMV little repeated
Yeah, like
gifs
interesting.
effectively.
Yeah, interesting use of like I don't know, like 5 seconds of FMV. That's kind of like looping and reversing and
Yeah.
rewinding. That's really this game's got a cool style. Like this is I fondly remember, whether it's earned or not, these games from the kind of early to mid '90s of like you're just you're doing the most with very little of like you're gonna stare at this screen for a really long time or like this set of screens for a really long time. They really need like you can interact with everything on the screen and everything has a button or flashing thing or it
Yeah.
moves a little bit and like I there's something about that of like this isn't something this computer in your apartment you're probably going to come back to a handful of times, so it's got to be
Yeah.
cool looking instead of just like I don't know, it's a computer, whatever.
Yeah. It's there are a lot of screens in this game too, man. Just like in the first 20 minutes I probably went through like I don't know, 10 to 15 screens, which in my opinion, for a point and click adventure from the 90s is a lot. Because to me,
Yeah,
that means there's probably like 100 screens or something ridiculous like
that's
that
a
in this
lot.
game.
Wow.
Um, but that may be way off. I may, I don't remember this game well, and I only played for maybe an hour and a half, and a lot of that hour and a half was like the first time I clearly messed up, and or did I die? Yeah, I can't. I think I died. And then I think the second time. I discovered the gun and then realized I was going to be late for my date.
Mm.
Because one of the first things you do is find the lady you're dating, and she's mad at you, and you got to make it up to her. So you got to go to a date at specifically 7 p.m. And I quickly realized I was not going to make that, and started
Ah.
over. And then I lost my gun, and then I'm like, I'll come back.
Yep.
Got to work on my pitch to Moon and Boston on this game.
Right.
But no, I honestly I think if I ever get a free evening again, I'm probably just gonna loosely have an FAQ on the side and do it. And man, another really cool thing about the game, I just saw one of the screens they had a helicopter floating in the distance.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Um, a lot of the areas have random like not events, but just random background elements. So
Yeah.
like when you go to the train station, it's not a train, it's a subway. The subway station, um, like almost every time I went there, there was something different there. Like sometimes there were punks, sometimes there was a lady, sometimes there were cops. Like it just
Hmm.
it seemed to cycle in and out a lot,
That's interesting.
which it very much gives kind of the feel of a more lived-in world. But this was a favorite game from my high school years, which also is a red flag on what this game might have in it. uh, but anyway, this is another like really neat game. This one you got to go to GOG for, and I think it is another $5 one.
Right.
So then for the last game I'm going to talk about is I started playing Tainted Grail. Full disclosure, Tainted Grail, and this is, I think they have two of them. So this is, I think, Tainted Grail, sometimes Conquest. I'm not sure.
Is this Tainted Grail the Fall of Avalon?
I think the Fall of Avalon is the second one.
Okay.
Uh, it's probably a very similar game either way. So Tainted Grail was a game that was a board game that I backed on Kickstarter, possibly a decade ago at this point. Well, maybe not quite a decade, probably at least 5 or 6 years. And I think they gave me a free copy of this game, but I don't know. I may have bought it on the Steam sale too. So this is just to say there may be a bias here, but Tainted Grail is a turn-based RPG roguelike that does not run on Steam Deck very well.
Oh, okay.
Like It runs on Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck is clearly dying. Like the
Hmm.
fan is at full every single time.
It's a little too
But this
hot
is
on your hands.
yeah, it lasts like Steam Deck dies within like you get maybe an hour out of
Oh,
the
okay.
OG Steam Deck with this game. Um, and it's, once it hits 10%, save and get out. Like it could go any second.
Right.
So at its core, this is a card game. Each character class has a deck with a certain amount of cards in it. Um, you go into battle. You pick random cards to try and mitigate things against the enemy. You have very few healing items that do not replenish, um, and a lot of the enemies will add either useless cards or cards that will hurt you to your deck.
Mm.
A lot of the areas you're walking around has I don't remember what they call it, so we'll call it a miasma. Um, and you get a limited amount of candles to mitigate the miasma's effects. And if
Mm.
you are battling without a candle in the miasma, it will give you penalty cards that you either use as one of your action points and just take the penalty, or don't use and it will give you a worse penalty.
Oh, wow.
Um, so it's a little brutal, and but honestly, it's a really fun card game. Like I like it a lot, but at the same time, I also might be done with it. We did skip February's episode, so I've been playing this like a month and a half, and I've unlocked, I think, like 6 out of 8 classes, something like that.
Oh, okay.
The setting is kind of Arthurian legend. Arthur and Merlin, so far at least, are not in this, but it's very clear that whatever they did, whatever land they conquer, caused issues, and reality is having issues, and everything is bad now
Yeah.
and dark, and no one is happy. So are trying to go about fixing things, and so you'll run out into the miasma, and your goal is to kill these 4 guardians. I've killed one of them and found the second one. But as you go through, you will find villagers to populate the village. They will have quests for you. They also have upgrade trees to give you extra things, like your candles last longer, or you get like another armor slot, or they have better selection of inventory, things like that.
Mm.
Um, the uh, the classes all have, specific decks associated with them, and they all play very differently. So the summoner, you get one free summon at the start, and a lot of the summoner's cards are, do you want to activate your summon? Do you want to bring in another summon? Um, I think there's 4 or 5 different types of summons. So you have like a golem, which will absorb damage for you. You have oh, I can't remember what it's called, but you have a attacker that will basically hit everything out there, but
Mm.
doesn't have very many hit points. Um, there's a fairy, and I still have not figured out what the fairy does, but that may also be because the Steam Deck is a little laggy when it plays it. So
Sure.
and the UI is not great on this game. It's a little, especially in combat. Like you'll select a card and it covers everything else up, and you're trying to like select an enemy while the card is covering everything up.
Oh, sure.
Um, so this is very clearly a team with limited resources that I think has
Hmm.
done a great job, but it has a lot of warts, and I'm hoping the sequel, The Fall of Avalon, fixes a lot of those. Which
Hmm.
I own that too. I'm just in the indecisive. Do I keep playing this one or not phase?
Right.
The My favorite class so far is called the Sentinel, which oddly enough is an archer.
Okay.
Um, and the Sentinel's whole deal is to execute as many attacks in a turn as possible.
Ooh.
Um, so you get a lot of arrow cards that have 0 cost, which I should probably break down the combat mechanics a bit more. You get 3 action points per turn. For most classes, all cards will cost between 1 and 3 points.
Okay.
But you will occasionally get, other cards that are like, play this and it costs 2, but your next card is -1 point to play or something like that. The Sentinel has a card that's like, here, this one costs 2 points, but you're going to use every single arrow card that is in your hand right now, and it's going to do plus 25% damage, for instance.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it has a lot of fun give and take with this stuff. I'm not going to remember all the classes' names, but one of them is all about building up to one high damage attack. So a lot of that is like, I'm going to stun enemies, I'm going to put on some armor, and then at some point I'm going to hit an enemy once or twice and they are going to die.
Okay.
They have classes that sacrifice HP for things. As you walk around, you'll level up and get additional cards that go on your deck. Some of the vendors you find will let you delete cards from your deck. Because, I mean, let's face it, not all these cards are winners.
Yeah, exactly.
And after you die and finish a run, it has, what most of these games have, where there's a billion goals that will, start unlocking and give you more card options and more encounter options as you move forward. But so I like this game a lot, but I suspect you should only play it on either computer or I think it released on consoles.
Mm-hmm.
But just go into it understanding at least this first one has some quality of life issues.
Right.
But generally, most of your runs, especially at the beginning, are only going to be 5 or 10 minutes. And where I'm at right now, a run is probably about 20 minutes.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's neat. I like it. Your mileage may vary. And I believe that is all I've been playing that I'm going to talk about. So, Boston, what you got?
All right, I'm going to talk about a game first that turned out to not be an RPG, which is Mewgenics. This is the new roguelike from the Ed McMillan and Tyler. Ed McMillan made... he was part of the Super Meat Boy team. He made Binding of Isaac. He and Tyler made The End Is Nigh. Has worked on a bunch of other stuff together. And on the surface, this is a run-based strategy RPG. When you go in to do a run, you take a team of 4 cats. You assign them collars, which essentially turns out to be their jobs. It's cleric, mage, ranger, fighter, thief, tank, the standard kind of D&D classes. And then you go out and you do a run. And when you get into a battle, the battles look a lot like pretty much any strategy RPG you have played before. It's not quite an XCOM, because you're never really hiding behind cover. It's more about the kind of grid-based tactical thing. Where it turns out to not be an RPG in a really interesting way is every action you take and everything you do in battle does not generate XP for your cats. Your cats never gain XP. They don't gain job points. They don't gain any of the kind of typical stuff. What happens is that after you successfully complete a battle, one of your cats levels up just flat. They just gain one single level. They gain a bonus and a stat. And stats are fairly obvious, like movement and charisma and intelligence and all the kind of, again, D&D stats. And you pick from one of 4 things. At that point, the cats can have 4 active abilities and either 2 or 4 passive abilities. It's kind of hard for me to tell sometimes, because I feel like a lot of times I just get 2, and then sometimes the game is just like, yeah, you're going to get more passives. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So like, there's kind of no in a an almost refreshing way. There's no like leveling up of your cats in a way of like, well, I need to make sure that this cat gets some hits in the battle because then they'll gain XP and I need them to level up. Like, your healer never needs to attack another unit because they'll just level up between now and a couple of fights. So, like, that's kind of refreshing in that way of just like, don't worry about having to have your healer, your mage or whatever, attacking a bunch of enemies. And then to kind of flip it on its head a little bit more, the wildest thing about this game is a single cat, when they go out on an adventure, when they go do a run, as soon as they're done with that run, they can never go do another run ever. So there's never like, oh, I have this cat that has gone into the, the alleyway. They've gone on 10, 15, 20 different runs and I'm investing in them. They can never go on another run again. And because of how Mewgenics works is you're supposed to bring those cats back from a run, and if they have come out of there with very few injuries, or they've had some sort of good mutations, or you've invested in them in a run, they'll go back to the house with great stats, great passives, great actives, or whatever. And then you want to breed those with other cats to make future cats stronger. And then you'll have kittens that could potentially have, I had this one cat that was an archer that was terrible. Their passive was basically anytime you crit, you do 100% extra damage, but you're going to miss, you have a 25% chance to miss every single shot. And that was brutal because I said it wasn't an XCOM game, but that 25% sure felt like an XCOM 20% where it's like 99%.
Yeah.
So like, I kind of didn't catch that early enough, and a lot of the cats that were being birthed from that cat were like really messing up my stats for other cats down the line. So I'm having a bunch of cats going into future runs that just can't hit anything. So like that's where you're kind of like building up your stable of cats run over run. But it's a really interesting thing because when you look at it, you're like, oh, this feels like a game, and I'm sure it was, that is inspired by not just D&D, but also Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Ogre, like some of these really famous turn-based strategy JRPGs. And then it kind of turns the whole thing on its head of like, no, you're not investing in Ramza and 7 other people in your party over a 40-hour game. You're investing in 4 cats for one single run, and then if they're coming out of a run really well, then you're kind of using them to make future cats better. So that's been kind of an interesting way of kind of flipping it on its head a little bit. Next game here, let me make sure I pull up the right one here. I have 2 games that I want to talk about that I'm kind of bummed by. First one is Darkest Dungeon 2, which I know is a roguelike, but the first one was much more of an RPG than I kind of was expecting. I really like the first Darkest Dungeon a lot, even though it is brutally, almost abysmally difficult. There's something about that game, the like level of tension for each run you're doing with your party, and kind of the like, it's the opposite of what I was just talking about with Mewgenics, of you really do have a level of investment in your party, or at least your like stable of fighters that you have, and seeing them kind of survive and thrive run over run, I think in the first one was something that I really enjoyed. Part of, excuse me, most of that feels like it's been removed or kind of greatly changed in the second one in a way that really kind of immediately turned me off to it. I think at its core it still tries to be the same game, but instead of you crawling through a dungeon like you do in the first one, you're kind of riding this carriage on this almost FTL style, like a forked path sort of thing, which sort of removes part of what I liked about the first game so much, which is your characters, you have to take care of your characters in the dungeon and in the battle. So it's not just like blindly stumbling around the dungeon, because you're going to run into obstacles that affect your sanity. You're going to run into a whole bunch of stuff that's going to take all of your precious resources away from your party before you even start in a battle. And it feels like with the carriage in this, that part, the part that I really liked in the first one, has been largely negated. And I feel like, and this isn't a negative, I feel like this might be an easier game to get into at the beginning of like your Darkest Dungeon runs, because you're not juggling 3 or 4 different things when you get into a dungeon. Because Darkest Dungeon 1 has an incredibly high like ramp to getting into that game, especially with how difficult it is at the beginning. So like the removal of a bunch of that stuff, I understand it, but to me it feels like it's taking away a lot of the charm of what I enjoyed of the first game. And then on top of that, I feel like, number one, it's way more playable with a controller. I was playing on PS5. I played Darkest Dungeon on console, which is probably not recommended. It was not built for a controller whatsoever, so it's a little bit janky. It's way more playable on a controller. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the information you're getting in the game of like, where does a unit fit best in your lineup? Because like some units will be better in the front row or the back row, or they can kind of float in the middle or somewhere like that. A lot of that stuff is clearer. A lot of stuff is clearer about what spots for the enemies can you attack using this ability, or what spots in your party can this healing spell heal. So like a lot of that is way clearer and way better. But then the game kind of doubles down on this very confusing, at least at the beginning, this very confusing set of icons in the game. I thought the first one did a really great job of like, okay, this one does 5 to 13 DMG, which is obviously damage, and it has a crit multiplier based on your ACC, your accuracy. So like a lot of that in the first game was using the kind of 3-letter abbreviations for a lot of the stuff that I feel like is in RPGs is fairly common. They've removed a lot of those kind of abbreviations in this game and replaced that with a bunch of symbols. So it'll be a lot of like, this attack inflicts this one symbol on an enemy. If you attack them with an attack that has another symbol, it does double damage, or it does this or that or the other thing. And it kind of, to me, for a game that is, again, not incorrectly simplifying a lot of what made the first game confusing or complex, they then have this kind of strange level of complexity on top of it with all these, things you're kind of setting up to chain or setting up to mark to do extra damage or all of this stuff. So it's kind of a little weird, and for how much I loved the first one, and after I played this for, a handful of hours, I went back to the first one. I really shouldn't have. I went back to the first one just to say, like, okay, am I making up how much I liked Darkest Dungeon 1? Is it still this, like, impossibly, oppressively difficult game? Or is there something still there that I click with? Turns out, Darkest Dungeon 1 still clicks with me quite a bit. And I still really like it. And I've, like, had to kind of pull myself away from playing more Darkest Dungeon 1, because I feel like Moon and I over on We Roguelike talk about this a lot, of like, if you start playing more stuff in a genre, you start figuring out how, like, to identify the hallmarks, and to identify, like, we were talking about this in the Tainted Grail Conquest, of like, after a while you figure out, oh, in a card game, I know this might sound silly, like trying to figure this out, but in a card game, I don't want to keep all of my cards in my deck. Like, if a vendor is like, oh, I can delete cards from your deck, my initial natural reaction was like, why would I want to get rid of cards? Why would I not want more cards? And eventually you're like, oh, that's why. Got it. Okay. Yeah. I want to keep the good ones and get those more often. Right. So, like, figuring out that, as an example, makes a lot of card games a lot better, because you kind of know the strategies already. Same with Darkest Dungeon, of like, oh, well, if I invest in the town, then all of my future recruits start in a better position. So if I lose a veteran unit, the negative impact to my run overall is lessened. Or like, maybe I'll lose a veteran unit that, had so many negatives on him, they couldn't be cured. And now I have somebody that's nearly as good starting from fresh. All right, I'm actually in a much better position than I thought. So I still really like Darkest Dungeon 1. Darkest Dungeon 2 just really didn't click with me in a way that I was kind of bummed about, because sort of infamously, we played Darkest Dungeon 1 on We Roguelike It and found out, yeah, it's a roguelike, but each of your runs, like, it's technically a roguelike, but each one of your runs is basically a campaign. So it's dozens of hours, as opposed to, like, going in a dungeon and doing a dungeon crawl. That's not really, quote-unquote, a run in kind of roguelike parlance. So part of the reason I was going through and checking this out was everybody had been saying, oh, it's a roguelike this time, because you're going and doing runs. And I thought, oh, perfect. Maybe this one will be a little bit more appropriate for We Roguelike It as a show. Turns out you can do that. And like, that is really how it works, because each one of your runs, you are kind of starting fresh. You are investing in the meta progression. So there is, investment run over run. But I think for me, trading those two different types of games, I think leaves this one as something that I don't like nearly as much as Darkest Dungeon 1. And I'm hoping that people that didn't like Darkest Dungeon 1 might like the second one better, because it isn't everything that made the first game really difficult, or like overly challenging, or overly punitive, or whatever. But I think for me, I liked the first one a lot better as opposed to this one. So, okay, one more game here to talk about. It's also a game that I have been finding myself frustrated by, and that's Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I am consistently really struggling with this game, and I have a hard time communicating why, because it's not inherently a bad game. It genuinely isn't. And going into it, I talked about this a lot on stream. I'm going into it realizing it is not Dragon Age Origins 2. It is not Dragon Age Inquisition 2. It is not a sequel to the other Dragon Age games. So I'm trying to set this off as like, it's a new Dragon Age game from a team that didn't make all of the other ones. I loved Origins. I like one of the few people that love Dragon Age 2, like unabashedly. I love Inquisition. Like all three games are really great. But recognizing this game has a legacy even before I'm starting it, and the legacy is not positive. And then going into it and trying to realize it's not a direct sequel to a lot of the other games that I like from like a gameplay standpoint. It's never they're never gonna make another Dragon Age Origins. It's just not going to happen. Like that's Baldur's Gate. Like if I wanted that, I could probably go play Baldur's Gate 3 and have a really great time. But I didn't dislike Inquisition. Like that was much more of a hack and slash kind of experience, and with a lot of the I never really played that much of the most recent Mass Effect game, but like Mass Effect 2 and 3, where you're kind of like giving orders to your party members rather than, oh, I'm going to switch over to Harding and I'm going to shoot some arrows for a little bit. Oh, I'm going to switch over to this other character and I'm going to sling some magic and do some healing or whatever. You're playing as your character, the Rook in this one. And like that's the only character you're playing as. I don't inherently dislike that. And I think from a gameplay perspective, I like this game quite a bit. I think I'm now getting to the point where you can start doing a lot of like combos. So like your mage will hit an enemy with this thing and your archer will hit them with something else, and the two of them combine and they do a big explosion. Like that stuff feels solid, and that stuff feels okay. Nothing revolutionary. But I've sort of gotten to the point in Veilguard where I feel like you never want to get with RPGs, which is you run into a room and a battle starts and you're like, oh god. Like you really, that's like the death knell for any RPG, whether it's an action RPG or like a kind of command RPG or whatever. You never want to get into a battle and just be like, oh Jesus, here we go again. Like that's when stuff really starts to fall apart. And I really feel like I'm at that point now where the last time I streamed this, I wrote that like I'm trying to find something that's propelling me through the game, because this so far hasn't been the characters. Harding is back from Inquisition and she's playable this time. It's one of my favorite characters in Inquisition. She's really great here. They're doing some really interesting things with her in this game of like, if anyone hasn't played Dragon Age, in the kind of Dragon Age lore, the dwarves can't learn magic just as like a story thing, but she's finding out that she's learning some level of magic in this game. So there's this fun kind of identity crisis happening for this character that I really like. But a lot of the rest of the characters in this game are fairly insufferable. Like Neve is one of your characters you meet early on. She's okay. Like she starts off as kind of like this like smarmy kind of like sidekicky mage thing, who's like this street smart kind of thing, I think she very quickly becomes a little bit more interesting in a way that I think works pretty well. But like Varric, I think really sucks in this game. He's kind of like, he's just kind of there to do. Look, he was always there to do a bunch of one-liners and be snarky, but it feels like when everybody does it in the game, Varric becomes really insufferable. In like,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah, your main character is kind of Varric Part 2.
yeah, and like I have said, talking about this game before, and this is not a compliment, that like this feels very like early 2000s Joss Whedon, or like any of the kind of worst behaviors of the Marvel movie stuff, of the very much like, well, that happened sort of school of writing. And I think if you have one character that does that, if you have Varric that does that, who has typically done that throughout these games, that's fine. You sort of always have the like snarky sidekick guy, but like virtually, if not literally, every one of the characters in this game speaks and acts and behaves like that. That quickly becomes, it quickly wears on you in a way that's like, nobody is taking anything in this game seriously. And I'm not the like the biggest Dragon Age lore hound on the face of the planet. Like, I have liked these games. I think their lore is fine. And I think their storytelling has historically been really good. But there's an element of like, no one's taking anything seriously, and it's really annoying. And then anything that people are taking seriously isn't really explained. Like, you run into this guy at some point who has a bunch of wyverns, or griffins. Sorry, griffins. And he's like, we should keep the griffins a secret. You shouldn't even be here. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, why are we keeping the griffins a secret, though? And he's like, don't worry about it. The secret griffins. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, that, I'm fine. It's your life's work or whatever. But like, why are we doing this? It's like, the secret griffins. It's like, okay, cool. Okay, just shut up. Like, just bring it down. And then, like, on the other hand, you're always dealing with the, like, the kind of political machinations of the Grey Wardens. And at some point, you, like, through a series of quests and whatever, you talk to, like, one of the leaders of the Grey Wardens. We've been dealing with the Grey Wardens since Dragon Age 1. And you're basically saying, like, hey, these elvish gods are back because we did a big whoopsie about the bad guy from the last game, and, someone might have made a big mistake, ha ha ha. But, like, the Grey Wardens basically tell you to go kick rocks, and in, like, one of the most frustrating things about this game is your character Rook is basically like, well, what are we gonna do? The Grey Warden said no. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, who cares? Like, who cares about the Grey Wardens? Like, go solve the problem. And there's always this element of like, yeah, I mean, let's go do it. But the Grey Warden said no. And I'm like, oh my God, who cares? Like, the legacy of these games is the ruling class or the patriarchy or the Mages Guild or whoever aren't looking at the warning signs or aren't taking the blight of the land seriously. So we, the rebels, have to go take care of it. So this like hand wringing of like, but the Grey Warden said no. It's like, who cares, man? In the last game, we started an army to take care of the problem. Like, like, what are you worried about at this point? Like, the Grey Wardens have never been on our side, and now you're super worried about it? So, like, it's just really frustrating in a way of, like, this kind of level of inconsistency from the previous games, from, like, a core storytelling standpoint, but also from within its own game. I I was pushing through the game until I got to basically the first big decision. And this isn't a spoiler, but basically the first big decision in the game is like two giant dragons are attacking these two towns. And one has gone to one town, one has gone to the other town. And you've been to the towns before. Basically, the one town is like this. It's like fantasy Italy, and like a bunch of the accents in that area are like suspiciously terrible. And they're basically, it's like the crows are running it, and they're like, well, the crows will take care of the town. Don't you worry, we take care of our own. And I'm like, okay. And then the other town is, I think it's Tainted, if I remember correctly. It's like the big mage town with the, it's like, it has high walls, it's very protected, but it has basically the seat of the mages. And like all of the mage council and all of like the political power of that area and the mages are there. And the game is basically like, you can only make it to one of the places. Which one are you going to go to and defend? And I decided to go to the Mage's City because my one teammate who sucks and is super annoying was basically like, well, the crows will take care of it. Like, we're going to take care of our town. We're going to take care of our own. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm going to go take care of like the political place because I don't want like the political landscape to fall apart. And now everybody is pissed at me. And they're like, well, you should have taken care of the town that didn't have the giant walls and the mages. And I'm like, bro, like, you literally said, don't worry, we'll take care of the town. And to the game's credit, when you go to the Fantasy Italy, the whole city looks way different. Like, they did a really good job of making it look like it got impacted. And, like, all your fast travel points have disappeared and all of that. So, like, it is a fairly impactful decision. But it's a little bit of, like, I knew that making this decision meant that there weren't going to be any winners. Like, someone was going to be mad. But you got to make it make a little bit more sense than it made coming out of that decision. So, that was
I remember that being, like, it was such a ridiculous moment and outcome. I couldn't take it seriously at all. Like,
yeah.
It was, for one, no one knows who your character is. And now the whole town is mad at you for not going to
yeah, like, oh, look
them.
at that
Like,
jerk that didn't come help us from the dragon. I'm like, there were 2 dragons, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we have 7 people in our crew. Now, like, I couldn't have sent a bunch of them over to Fantasy Italy to go take care of the problem? Like, what are we doing?
yeah. Only 7 people in the world can deal with anything. So,
Exactly. And, like, the game did... I give them a little bit of credit because the game really did attempt to explain why that dragon was so much of a problem in Fantasy Italy, because the game is basically like, look, it never landed. Like, it hung out above the town and just, flew around for hours and was raining down death and blight on the city. There was nothing we could do. And I was like, okay, you at least, like, attempted to say, like, this was an impossible foe to fight, instead of like, I don't know, we tried shooting with arrows and nothing happened because you weren't there, Rook. Like, they did do that, but it was still sort of like, okay, like, come on. What are we doing here?
I mean, and I agree. Like, they did Fantasy Italy damage, I thought, pretty well. Like, I enjoyed that. Like, you do have to do, like, this is nearing the point where I just dropped the game altogether, by the way. I thought it was kind of neat that they had kind of new quests based on kind of that destruction and trying to earn trust. But in terms of writing, I just thought it was bad. Like, I felt the game wants you to feel guilty about it, and I just felt no guilt. And I don't think that's my fault. I think, yes, I can have empathy for these digital beings, but in no way do I feel responsible for it. Like, it's a ridiculous game that you were trying to make this decision I had to make out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, you like
Like,
come back from a quest and someone runs up to you and be like, "There's dragons attacking the city," and I'm like, "What are you talking? Okay, is that my next? Oh no, I have to make this decision." And like,
yeah.
there's an element too that I think is really frustrating. Of like, even that guy who's in the crows that is talking about taking care of the city. There doesn't seem to be any realization from him of like, we're in the middle of a war against two elven gods, and there are going to be losses in a war. So like, there just didn't seem to be any realization from him of like, I needed to make this decision and no one was going to win in the end. So like, that was really frustrating. I did play a little bit further past that, and I did meet, so far, my favorite character, whose name I'm not going to remember, but it's basically Vincent Price. And he's fantastic. Like, he's chewing the scenery in this game. He's a necromancer that, like, just really loves his job, and he's, like, way more upbeat than he should be. He has a servant called Manfred, which is like a skeleton on wheels with gems for eyes that just hisses at you. And like, I was like, okay, like now we're talking about some Dragon Age weirdness. Like, this is what I was waiting for in the rest of the stuff of like, when am I going to run into some like really weird character? Like, when am I going to run into something that isn't taking itself so seriously, like so overly seriously, it feels like a CW show, and like not in kind of a, like, look, I loved, watching The Flash and Arrow and all of that stuff. Like, those are great shows, but they know what they are, and the Veilguard never necessarily feels like it knows who it is. Like, it feels like it's trying to take everything so seriously, but then doesn't really back it up with the writing. And the performances are all great. The game looks great. The dungeons are really pretty short and kind of boring as of so far. Like, they're really fairly kind of like a straight line for most of them. So that's been a little bit of a bummer, especially after kind of the not open world stuff from Inquisition, but the kind of like larger area stuff from Inquisition.
I think the only dungeons I actually liked in that game were in this game, Veilguard, was what's the magic place called? Isn't that like kind of a maze place you kind of explore and solve puzzles in here? The Veil? The Veil?
Oh yeah, that's been okay. So I forgot about that. The game sets itself up really weird, where you're like, you have this area called the Lighthouse, and it's basically your hub. And each of your party members gets their own little shack that they're around, which makes it super weird and super annoying because you have this giant, like, Arthurian table in the middle of this building, and like no one ever sits there. But they're all like a minute's walk away out of the way, which is fun. I get it from like a game design standpoint. But then, so like, there's this whole thing that they're building up in the game of all these Illuvian mirrors, I think they're called. And it's basically like, oh, well, we have this mirror in the basement, and we're going to take that, and we're going to travel to the lands of Thedas, and we're going to get a whole bunch of people to go fight the elven gods, and we're going to do all the usual RPG stuff. But then immediately, that mirror basically takes you to the Fade, which is like an unfolding hub area that you kind of only get access to like one spoke of at the beginning. And then at the end of each one of those spokes is a handful of those mirrors that takes you to the other areas. So it's this really strange sort of thing where I kind of get what they're going for, but the way that they're setting it up was sort of like, okay, cool, we just like tune the mirror in the basement and it goes to where we want to. And it's like, no, the mirror goes to the land of mirrors. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So like it's all like, it all feels in a negative way. It feels like the BioWare that has been part of EA for this long. Of like, it feels so much like EA games, and it feels so much like this kind of like hack and slash, hand-holdy, overly simplistic sort of thing. And like, again, I want to say, I was not going into this thinking it's Dragon Age Origins 2. I'm not even thinking it's going to be Inquisition 2. But for it to be so much more simplistic than a lot of that stuff, with the like really frustrating kind of lack of quality on the writing standpoint, it's just, the whole thing feels like such a bummer.
Yeah.
And like, I found a little bit of stuff I've enjoyed here and there, but the amount of that has been so thin that it's hard to find reasons to propel me through the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest bummer of like, especially after coming off of Inquisition, which, like, to be fair, Inquisition was a very long time ago, like a startlingly long time ago. But this feels like it really is like standing in the shadow of other great RPGs that have come before it.
I mean, arguably, all the other Dragon Ages are riddled with warts, but wind up usually being more the sum of their pieces. And usually the thing that makes them more the sum of their pieces is it will at least at minimum have really good spots of writing in it.
Yes.
And I just think they, and a lot of that's landed too, I think, with the well-written characters. And I think you hit the nail on the head with all these characters are kind of the smarmy Varric dialogue to some extent.
Yeah.
And throwing you in the lighthouse area where you have to walk several blocks to talk to them, and you're supposed to do this constantly, and just to hear these same characters be somewhat annoying is it's kind of for me it was a death knell. Like I don't know, it was disappointing, but I've also my expectations for BioWare to hit a home run are just non-existent. Like, if they make a more than decent game, I will be singing its praises, I think. And I think, unfortunately, this is just a decent game.
Yeah, and like not decent enough for me to stick with it. Like, and it's a real bummer because like I think there have been bright spots here, but I don't think they're good enough or often enough for me to really stick with it. I mean, all the way.
Even Solus is occasionally like Varric humor character, which is like,
and like
what are you guys doing? Did you have one writer for everyone?
Yeah, and like part of the reason why I liked Varric in previous things is he was an unreliable narrator. Like he's writing the Dragon Age book, and can you trust him to tell the real story, or is he just trying to make himself sound cool and sell a good book? And there isn't really any of that here. And when the game tries to have him be like a mentor to Rook, that just falls flat because he's Varric. Like, he's not supposed to be the paragon of perfection or even like a good dude. He's supposed to be this kind of roguish ne'er-do-well, and have him being like, I believe in you, Rook. You can get out there and take down Solus. And I was like, what are you who are you? Shut up.
Yeah. I did not enjoy the choosing of Rook with Varric. Just I've known 2 champions, and you're one of them.
Yeah,
Or
exactly. Like,
3 champions, and now you're one of them, or something.
yeah,
It was just,
I
don't
do.
know,
I did
Batman.
like the character creator. I think that was really solid. I did like picking the background of your character. I picked a background where there were essentially like an archaeologist, because I thought that sounded cool. But basically, you're on the outs with the archaeology guild because
Oh yeah, I did that one too. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
like
go on.
you found a magical map that you were looking for forever, but you went to go save your crew members, which lost the map, but you were able to save their lives. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. And see the number of people in the game pretty constantly who are either upset with you because you lost this priceless map, or kind of impressed by you sticking with your crew and your party. Like that has been pretty interesting. Um, but just it's not enough, man. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's a fine game, and I am playing so many great games right now that the idea of sticking with a game that's just fine doesn't really sound enticing at all. So I I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. I wouldn't mind seeing it through to the end, but I don't know if I'm gonna set aside the time to do that.
Yeah.
So just a real bummer. But yeah, that's all the games I'm playing this month. Sorry, I had like 2 bummers back to back, but you know that's sometimes how it goes.
Is what it is.
Yeah. Let's talk about our releases for March 2026. We're going to start off here with World of Warcraft Midnight. That came out on March 2nd on PC and macOS. Seems to be the big release that people are really excited about. In kind of typical MMO fashion, I feel like it is a little bit hard to figure out exactly what makes this game, or what makes this expansion especially notable. The thing that they're really pushing kind of at the forefront seems to be player housing. But a lot of it isn't, for someone like me that hasn't played WoW in over a decade, it's a little hard for me to understand what's going on in the game when they're not like, here's a brand new class, or here's a brand new race, or we added a new, like 5 new areas or something like that. So I'm very excited for the WoW fans, because I love seeing a game that, from the outside looking in, has had its fair share of ups and downs. I mean, obviously it has, because it's been running for more than 2 decades at this point. But it is nice to see a bunch of people being like, yeah, new expansion, let's go Midnight. Like, let's go. We're getting back into WoW. So that's been pretty exciting. I'm happy for them, even if I don't understand exactly why they're happy. That came out recently. Next up is Greedfall 2, The Dying World. Comes out of what appears to be early access on March 12th on PS5, Series consoles, and PC. I remember the first Greedfall. This is a spiders game. I remember the first Greedfall being fairly well received as kind of a game that, it had a smaller team, had a lower budget, but had a lot of heart. And the reception from this game so far has seemed surprisingly to be the exact opposite. People seem to be really upset about this game kind of changing styles. If you wanted something that was more like KOTOR or Dragon Age 1 from like a combat perspective, I'm not saying like a writing or quality perspective. I'm not saying like it's Dragon Age 1, 2. But that kind of like rolling the dice hack and slash sort of thing. This seems to be that. And part of what it seems like people are so upset about from this, looking in from the outside, is maybe the developers stuck a little bit too closely to those games without maybe modernizing them that much. So that seems really interesting. I was trying to figure out why people were upset with this game, other than it's an early access game, because there's still a contingent of people that are upset about early access games, and it seems to be this kind of strange dislike for this kind of nostalgia game. So I don't know. We'll see when reviews come out. I'm curious to see how it reviews, but early reports seem to be not glowing. Next game we have here is R-Type Tactics 1 and 2 Cosmos. Coming out on March 12th on PS4, PS5, Series consoles, Switch, Switch 2, and PC. This is from what it seems to be, a combination package of R-Type Tactics 1 and 2, brought over onto modern consoles and seemingly modernized a little bit. If you haven't seen R-Type Tactics games, these are really interesting. They're hex-based grid, like kind of turn-based tactics games, based on the R-Type games, R-Type kind of shmup games. But instead of them being kind of top-down or isometric, they're on a 2D side plane. So you're taking all of your spaceships and kind of attacking the enemy on a kind of side view 2D plane, which is really interesting. People seem to really like these games quite a bit. I've never gotten around to playing them, even though I feel like I would like them also. I feel like they just kind of come out at the wrong time, basically every time. And I never have time to dive into an SRPG or a tactics sort of thing. So, did you ever play either one of these?
Honestly, up until this podcast today, I always thought these were bullet hells on PS1, and I'm like, well, that's neat, but I'm never going to be good at those. And now everything you've said about it is like, the PS1 part is the main part that makes me like, I bet these things are 1,000 hours long. But
yeah, probably.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how these do. These seem to be sort of beloved, so we'll see how they review here. Coming out next on the day after that, March 13th, Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection comes out PS5, Series console, Switch 2, and PC. I feel like in the States, this series has sort of gone a little bit under the radar for some people. This is not your typical Monster Hunter game where you're kind of repeatedly doing monster hunts, and it's the third person kind of hack and slash RPG. This is the kind of monster befriending turn-based command JRPG series, taking place in the Monster Hunter world with similar characters. It has a lot of the Monster Hunter monsters. The story of this starts out with, what does it say? Twin Rathalos born in a twist of fate. So Rathalos is the dragon from Monster Hunter. So it's all the way in the world, but it kind of turns it into even more of a story focused thing, and turns it into a turn-based command RPG thing. So I've always wanted to play these because I think they look really cool, and I think the Monster Hunter aesthetic is really neat, and I like the monster designs. But I kind of don't want to open Pandora's box and be like, "Yep, I'm gonna get addicted to a grindy game, and I'm particularly susceptible to those." So this seems like maybe more of a thing that I can start and play and finish without having to spend 200 something hours. Have you ever?
Yeah,
I don't think you've played any of these, right? Have you been interested in these?
I have always been interested because, like, same deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you've given me an RPG with a definitive beginning and end, and characters and story, and I get the cool looking armor and weapon stuff from,
Right.
Monster Hunter. So, like, I should theoretically like these. uh, but no, I've never took the plunge.
Yeah. For me, like the mainline Monster Hunter games always seem like you're handing me a loaded gun, and I know myself, I'm gonna accidentally shoot my foot. Like it's just going to happen. I'm gonna get obsessed with a Monster Hunter game, and I'm just gonna dump too much time into it. That's just gonna
Yeah.
happen. That's who I am. So hopefully check this out at some point. Next up, Dragonkin The Banished comes out on March 19th for PS5, Series consoles, and PC. This also looks like it's coming out of early access. I'm fairly sure. This one was a little bit harder to tell. As it's like, it doesn't seem to be the most popular game out, which is sort of a bummer. It looks pretty cool. It looks like kind of a Diablo-style hack and slash kind of character thing. I think if you have played any Diablo games or any of the kind of action RPG hack and slash kind of Diablo inspired games, I think you'll find an interface and kind of like, there was a bunch of loot that dropped in this trailer, and it was an orange item. It had like a little orange light coming out of it. It kind of has the hallmarks of the genre, but looks very fast, looks very kind of speedy and actiony. And maybe a little bit less intimidating than Path of Exile, which every time I try to do that and I open up the skill tree, I'm always like, nope, nope, nope,
Yeah.
not for me.
Path
I
of
gotta
Exile
go.
is very intimidating. So
Yeah.
is this like Path of Exile is an online game as service game? Is this going to be a games as service type deal?
It
Or is
doesn't
this
look
just
like it. It looks like it's a single player, or I believe it has co-op, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many players it had. So it definitely doesn't seem to be like an online kind of Path of Exile sort of live service seasons sort of thing. It seems like it's a more of a Diablo
That is,
sort of thing.
makes it way more appealing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so check out Dragonkin The Banished. I think that looks cool. I feel like we still kind of don't get a lot of these types of games, or if we do, they're kind of not bubbling up to where I'm seeing them. So that's cool. And last but not least, Life is Strange Reunion comes out March 26th, PS5, Series consoles, and PC. We should have talked about it at the beginning. It's been a while since we've talked about it at the top of the show. Talk about RPGs and other games that kind of fit our fancy or are in kind of smaller, maybe overlooked
right.
genres.
Yeah, Rise of the Dragon is not an RPG. My bad.
Right.
I should have said that.
No,
earlier.
yeah, I like to mention it every couple of months for new listeners.
Yeah.
But we are a big Life is Strange crew here, both here and on Game Club over on TVGP. And or like the kind of modern adventure games that are kind of this ilk. I don't know what to think about this one, man. It's a direct sequel to Double Exposure, which we had a whole lot of thoughts about when we finished it on Game Club. I think it was last year. And them directly continuing that last one and then doing some wild stuff off of the heels of the first one seems like a really interesting choice. I don't know, man.
I'll play it. I have no expectations for it being good, though.
Yeah. I was left fairly disappointed by the back half of Double Exposure and them kind of doubling down on some of the silliness of the end of that game. I don't want to spoil it for obvious reasons. It leaves me sort of being like, I don't know, man. Like, what are we... look, Life is Strange has never been the best game of all time. I have a very large soft spot for these games for reasons I'm not entirely sure I can communicate. I just love them so much. Apparently, that's like the indie Pacific Northwest part of my heart. But like, they're doing some stuff here that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I guess the only part that might give me hope for this game is it was very obvious Double Exposure was more eager about writing the next game than Double Exposure. So
Yeah, I think that's
we'll
fair. Yeah.
we'll find out if that excitement was worth it or not. Okay. I'm gonna put a complaint out there
Hmm.
that I feel real dumb for complaining about because well, the world is what it is. Um, the collector's edition for this was only available on Square's website,
Oh God.
um, which means you're paying for shipping,
Uh huh.
and it's $100 collector's edition. I wanted to get it, but I've been too broke. I'm finally at a place where I could afford something like that. Um, but before, when I tried it, when I was broke, they wanted like $30 for shipping. Now,
Oof.
granted, part of that is probably tariffs and whatnot.
Sure. And it probably comes with a vinyl too, I'm gonna guess.
Yes,
Sure. So
yes.
shipping
I
is
was
challenging.
Yes, I mostly wanted the vinyl.
Yeah.
Um, the shipping is always disappointed when it's only available through Square's website
It's
because
so rough.
you know
Their store sucks.
everywhere else, Best Buy, GameStop, you could do a pickup. Amazon, would always give it to you free. But
Right.
anyway, now they're sold out, so I probably will never be able to get it for a decent
Yeah.
price, which is truthfully probably good for me mentally anyway, because I've been trying to pull away from that and sell a lot of my things because I have too much crap,
Hmm.
and it's really an unhealthy habit, I think.
But maybe at one of these kind of smaller boutique stores will sell
Yeah.
just the vinyl at some point. That'd be
Oh,
nice.
that'd be nice. I'd take that
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the music will probably at minimum be decent, which
Yeah.
is another thing about Double Exposure. Go listen to our podcast, but
Yeah.
that game club episode. But I didn't like the music in it as much as
No.
every single other Life is Strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, I was also going to complain. Like now they have like they finally are putting True Colors, the best Life is Strange game
Yes.
in my opinion,
100%.
on disc for the
Oh.
Life is Strange collection.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Um, yeah, that thing. So the Life is Strange collection, it's $60, which is a little high, guys.
Hmm.
It's it has hard copies of Double Exposure and True Colors, and then it has digital copies of the rest of the games.
Okay, that's not
Um,
too bad.
yeah,
That's a lot
it's
of
not bad.
games. Yeah.
I want True Colors on vinyl, man.
Yeah, that soundtrack was
Like,
really good.
give me that. Like, maybe that exists. Maybe I'm complaining.
That's your homework for after this is like
Yes.
true colors on vinyls. Yeah. I think you put it the right way though, that I'm curious to see if all of the setup that happened in Double Exposure is going to pay off in this next one in Reunion. We'll find out soon,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I will reiterate I sort of have my concerns. So, all right, that's all of the games in our release, which means that's the end of our episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to visit us, and the website is still broken. I need to go figure that out. You can visit us at tvgp.tv. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page. Please don't forget to support us financially over at patreon.com/e1m1 or e1m1.cash. And Musum, where can we find you online?
You can find me at my link tree, linktr.ee/John Musim, JOHNMUSIM. And with any luck, it may not happen, but I have a new album coming out that I've not started advertising yet. I believe it will be out digitally before the next podcast. It may be slightly after it. I have some things I've been trying to get lined up for, but I am extremely proud of this. So the last release I did, Best Wishes, was kind of a remix EP. and this is a full-on album. I think if you like Massive Attack and Portishead, while this does not necessarily sound like them, I think it has some of that vibe. And I
Nice.
think it will be up your alley, so I would love it if you would check it out. But keep an eye on my link tree and my socials, and I will undoubtedly post it everywhere.
Nice.
Oh, and our Discord.
Yes, and Discord, yeah. If you'd like to visit it, find me, janston.com, JANSTEN.com. Has links to all my social media and the live streaming stuff. I live stream 5 days a week, every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, over at twitch.tv/Janston Plays. I have a great community over there, very welcoming community, and I think you'll... Recently, they described my streaming vibe as chill dad. So if that sounds like the relaxing stream that you need in your life, come over there and come hang out and join us. Usually playing about 3 hours a day, every day over there.
I think that's just how I'm going to describe you from now on.
Yeah, I'll take it. It could be a lot worse other than chill dad. I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening and watching. We do greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.